Hello, bonjour. My name is Stephanie Hutchinson, the Director of Programs here at the National Music Center. Welcome to this very special program, our second installment in a series of 5 lunch hour sessions connecting music and wellness. Before beginning today's program, I would like to acknowledge that we are located here at Mohkinstsis at the confluence of the Bow and Elbow Rivers on the traditional lands of the peoples of the Treaty 7 region. It is comprised of the Kainai, Siksika, Piikani, Tsuut'ina, and Stoney Nakoda. The territory is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. The National Music Center is committed to reconciliation through music and programs at Studio Bell. We elevate many Indigenous voices through live music offerings, through our exhibitions, and our public programs. Most importantly, we continue to consult with our National Indigenous-led Program Advisory Committee to help inform, guide, and curate the National Music Center's plans. We will continue to support and work in collaboration with Indigenous communities to share their stories, inspire dialogue, and build awareness of the musical and societal contributions that Indigenous peoples in the arts have made, past, present, and future. Now, today's program is all about discovering how music carries the power to heal, rejuvenate, and humanize the clinical environment. We'll learn about how the therapeutic essence of music can revolutionize patient care, well-being, and your own resilience as a healthcare provider. Our guest today is Jennifer Buchanan of JB Music Therapy, a recognized industry leader with a career spanning more than 30 years. Jennifer masterfully weaves music therapy, business, and heart, extending her influence across the country and beyond. Her clinical specialization encompasses mental health, corrections, and corporate wellness. This expertise is beautifully captured in her book, Wellness Well Played, where she delves into the profound influence of music, neuroscience, and the power of a playlist. She has served as the past president and former executive director of the Canadian Association of Music Therapists and is currently a director here at the National Music Center. Please visit our Music and Wellness exhibit on level 3 in this back corner upstairs here to see more of Jennifer's work in action. One of the largest galleries here at Studio Bell, Music and Wellness taps into the power of music on mental and physical health, exploring 4 themes: music and healing, music and support, music and culture, and music and memory. So please feel free to explore the exhibit after the session. Finally, on behalf of the National Music Center, I would like to thank and recognize Bell for making this series possible. Thank you all so much for being here and watching at home or at the office. And without further pause, please welcome Jennifer Buchanan.
Oh, welcome everyone here to the studio and also online. Thank you for joining us. Last week I spoke to the teachers, and before I got here, I asked a few of them, what problems are you looking at right now? What problems are you hoping to solve? And the answer that I got was that 1, we want to be seen. What's happening is that they are completely feeling burdened down by the number of students, the extra supervision, having to learn a new curriculum, and just being present for all the people that they're serving. The second thing they said was being connected. They want to feel this level of connection with their colleagues, especially those that are new into the field, so they can help with the mentorship that is coming down the line. And the third one is they said, we want a Calm Me Down playlist, not only for the students, but for ourselves. So guess what happened when I spoke to healthcare professionals this week? Basically the same thing. We'd like to be seen. I know what it's been. I've been with you. We just went through COVID, and at the end of COVID, there was no, whew, I'm so glad that's over. What ended up happening is the level of intensity, the acuteness, and the needs kept going. There's been no, whew, it's all over. We didn't get that breath. The second thing is connection. There's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of change. there's a lot of new people, and there's no time to connect. And the third one is, we want a calm me down playlist for all those patients and for ourselves. So it's incredibly similar what is happening throughout our region, throughout our world right now. So, what else is happening? Some good things. There's still a lot of empathy, kindness, and compassion. We're seeing it all the time. There is also highly skilled experts. It was only about 10 days ago that my best friend's son, second year of university, had a collision on the rugby field. Within hours, he was intubated at ICU, and after he had suffered a seizure, and all the things were happening. And it was fast, it was furious, and it was at such a high level. Today, he is at home, and he has started going back to school already, and it's because of the care, attention, and the swift action that healthcare providers have made. So on behalf of me, my best friend, and all of us, thank you for all your work, for everything that you do all the time. So where does music fit in when it comes to this? Well, we're going to look at music in general first, and then we're going to look at very specifically what's happening with music therapy in our hospitals and care settings. And then we're going to talk about music for you. And what are the few things that you can do to care for yourself using music, so then you can continue caring for others. And that's our big dream here at the National Music Center, is that today is essentially a big hug and a thank you for all your work. We consume a lot of music. And if you're like me, you're here, you're online, you have consumed a lot of music, and perhaps there's even a few of you around my age, Gen Xers, how much I love you. And remember sitting in rumpus rooms, and there were shuffleboards, and we were listening to vinyl, and I'm sure I had a pair of those headphones plugged right into the stereo. Or it could be that you remember music as you were walking to school with your Walkman. Or maybe you had a dual cassette player at home that you were able to record and listen to your favorite songs and get them on tape and give them to your best friend. Or perhaps you've been streaming for as long as you can remember. No matter what, we have been drawn to music for a host of reasons. It is a part of us. It is indeed a part of our humanity, and it reminds us what our humanness is. So let's begin by a short exercise. I would like you to start washing through all the music you've been listening to lately. So washing through that music through your brain. What music have you been drawn to deeply? Not just what you've casually listened to on the radio, but actually been physically and emotionally drawn to. I'd like you to just think about that for a moment. And then what I would like you to do is put 3 words to describe it in your mind. The 3 words that describe that music that you've been drawn to lately. And then I would like you to turn to someone you have not met yet. Or if in the case that you are online and there's just nobody around, you're going to have a piece of paper and a pen in front of you as you jot your 3 things and maybe a few notes. But I would like you to turn to that person and have a brief conversation as to what music you've been drawn to lately and the 3 words you would use to describe it. Go ahead. All right, I'm going to start bringing us back. Thank you for that. I'm sure there's a lot more that we can talk about, and that was just one question. One question as to the music you've been drawn to lately, and 3 words that describe that music. I now have a question for you. Just again, repeat those 3 words in your mind. With all the evidence that we know with how personalized music is in our lives, is it possible that in this moment, those 3 words that you've been drawn to lately could also describe yourself? Or what you aspire to be? Or what maybe you need a little therapy about? Just saying. Because one thing we know for sure is that a song is never just a song, ever. Sometimes we say, oh, it's music. Oh, music's so nice, and oh, it's so nice you're here to sing today. We hear these things often. But we know right now, a song is never just a song. We also know behind some of those most significant songs, there's always an untold story. There's a popular song that we have been hearing for decades, that as we've listened to it, we start looking at where did it come from. One of my favorite things to do is to look at where does a song come from and where does the artist who wrote it come from and what was going on when they did. Sometimes it just literally was inspiration, and then sometimes something's happening in the moment. Well, in this case, when we're talking about Lean on Me and Bill Withers, he came from this small town from Slab Fork, West Virginia. And it was such a small town, there were like less than 100 people who were really around him. But it was home. And as I'm telling this story, I'm sure you can imagine what your home was like and what you would consider home to be. And then there was some talent that he had, and a bubbling up, and some curiosity and investigation, and hence heading out to Los Angeles, which was busy, had lots going on. And he went out there, and he felt not quite fitting in. Perhaps you felt that too at some time in your life. It just wasn't quite as connected as what you'd always had. So I've given you a little bit of background to the song. Now I'm going to ask you to sing it. Oh, don't worry. See, all the people online right now are so excited because they're muted. But for us here, here's what we know. It was only 500 years ago we created the stage. Up till then, it was community music making. It is a part of your DNA. If you don't want to quite sing today, feel free to hum. Humming's so excellent for us. But what I'd like to do is just revisit this song. And as we do, I'd like you to think about home, how home has changed for you, and maybe those moments where you just didn't quite feel like you were fitting in. How does that feel? Except here, of course. Here we go. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Here we go. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. I'm gonna need somebody to lean. One more time, choir, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Beautiful all. Yes, you can give yourselves a hand. Absolutely stunning. So what's happening? Well, we're grateful for music. We know it exists. We're beginning to recognize its full potential, and now we're looking at opportunity. What's the opportunity that music can bring to us? Let's start right here. There's no other activity we know of that lights up more areas of the brain simultaneously than when we listen to music that matters to us, that we engage with. When we listen to music, it activates the brain. When we engage with music, it has the potential to change the brain. I like to think of music as neuronutrition, gut fuel, and heart health, all simultaneously. It doesn't matter when you start using music more intentionally, when you dig deeper into it, new neural pathways are going to start to happen. But when it happens the most, as you can well imagine, is when we're young. That's why I'm so profoundly believe in music and education. I so profoundly believe that we help encourage people to use diverse music within their households from the very beginning. Because music has the capacity to really develop all these areas that you're seeing amongst the brain. I'm going to show you a brief video just to give you an example of one of the youngest of us responding to music with their music therapist.
When working with children, we have goals, and there is a process, a therapeutic process. But at a point, it's important to get their attention. Les fourmis marchent une par une, hurrah, hurrah. Les fourmis marchent une par une, hurrah, hurrah. With Karianne, she responds very well to music because it's one of her only ways to connect with the world at this point. She's blind. She got very accustomed to getting relaxed to music and then using the instruments. The more she develops, the more she's actually able to use the instruments for the sounds of them, but also for the tactile stimulation, because she loves to touch various instruments, and when she touches and there's a sound coming out of it, then she's an actor in this world instead of just being passive or receptive in her bed. That's also her way to socialize through the instruments, through music, and to communicate and develop. On essaie avec l'autre main? Oui, c'est ça. Ça, c'est le fun.
Oh, Carrie Ann, could she be any cuter as she's listening to music? Becoming a music therapist and working and co-treating with our other allied health professionals has been one of the greatest joys in our career. And along the way, a lot of new evidence has come. When I started practicing as a music therapist, we didn't have an MRI machine yet. We didn't know exactly all the things that were beginning to happen, but we were seeing it. And we were, as the evidence has slowly started to catch up to where we've been witnessing what music could do, we've learned a lot more. Some of that information includes that when we listen to 20 minutes of music that soothes us to that gut fuel level, it equals 10 milligrams of Valium. And I know nurses would say, hey, that's pretty good. It's quite a remarkable thing what music has the capacity to do. Also in 2009, we started hearing that a multi-state 2-year study in the US monitored medication usage for 2 groups. One group resided in long-term care, and one group resided in long-term care and participated in music therapy 3 times a week. What that looks like is typically a group of 6 to 8 individuals with a music therapist and working with them and their very particular preferences, their very particular tempo, being able to adjust what's happening in order to maximize the level of engagement. And what happened? The findings is that what they put in this paper was astonishing, and this was back in 2009. That $6.3 billion could be saved by adding more music therapy in healthcare due to a decrease in medication. Since then, there have been many more studies that have come up with this, and we just had an opportunity where our entire team was able to participate in a really exciting moment where the new music care application is coming to Canada for the first time, and we're trialing it at the Foothills Medical Center. So here is where we learned, and what music care is a clinically validated medical device, Class 1, that allows a reduction of more than 50% in drug consumption. We're going to have more results on this within about a year. So if you're interested, you might want to look up music care out of France and learn a little bit more and watch some of the amazing things that are happening there and now throughout the world. And what we're seeing on the front lines continues to be something where, again, we're seeing in the evidence as well. We're seeing that music can make repetitive tasks easier and help with cognitive load. We're noticing the lower blood pressure and heart rate. We really saw this during COVID in the ICU when we were able to really watch those monitors carefully. We're seeing reduced anxiety, which is significant. And this is for all ages. Our youngest client is 2 months old. Our eldest is over 100. We're creating a passage to long-term memory. We're increasing pain tolerance levels, and we're improving sleep quality, and we are documenting it, and we're finding it. But we're also not in isolation. Probably one of the greatest joys over these last decades now has been able to work with others within the hospital setting and to participate together. I personally work in corrections every Thursday. I have the honor not only to work with allied health professionals, including psychiatrists, recreation therapists, but also working with correctional officers in a room, as well as working with our patients. It's been quite remarkable. So, I'd like to show you just another short video from the front lines.
growing up, we always had campfires. And, there's always a guitar kicking around, or a bongo, or a djembe. It's very good for the soul, the mind, and the body.
A music therapist is a credentialed allied health or healthcare professional who uses music in the context of a therapeutic relationship to promote well-being. When we're supporting folks' well-being here in this context, for example, we're working on a combination of things, and for some patients it might be more functional rehabilitation focused, so mobility or speech or attention or memory or cognition. In this context, not only are we working on Dustin's diaphragmatic strength and control and keeping his lungs healthy and activated, but also giving him an opportunity to express himself in a way that has always made sense to him and been important to him.
I had a client, and he suggested that it's hard to tell how much better I'm doing now than I was before. But during the music therapy session, I had forgotten all about my problems.
There's so much on your mind. Once you come to and you start acknowledging the differences in your body, and they just take that half an hour out of their day, it makes it so much nicer. You don't think about it.
You did.
I did. Oh, that's awesome.
So, like everybody else, we had to really adjust during COVID, and one of the places that we were not able to continue to provide service to was the burns unit. And we also weren't able to go to several long-term care facilities at the time, and like all of us who were denied access, the tears flowed, and we just felt we weren't there for people at the time when they needed us most, and it was extremely difficult. So we were very fortunate that we were able to partner and try something new, and we partnered with Double Robotics. And Double Robotics out of the United States, we were able to find the best robot we could find at the time, and we're looking forward to more. But it allowed us to be able to do music therapy sessions from home and still see some of the clients that we serve. We named our robot Scout. So we could continue to work with people so they could take the deep breaths that we were encouraging to continue taking, that we could continue socializing with them when they were feeling like they weren't getting enough level of human-to-human contact, and where we could address some of the music in regards to that feeling of, I can strengthen, I am human. Well, now it's all about you. We're going to turn into the top 5 tips to maximize your music. And these are the best things that I've been able to figure out thus far, and there's always something new to learn and so much more that we can do. But we're going to maximize your music, whether you already listen to music all the time, or if you've been a little bit hesitant lately for whatever that reason is. But here's a few thoughts as we move forward. The first one, to identify your preferences. Now, speaking of Gen Xers, I'm assuming this is what long-term care is going to look like eventually, where we're all going to be deciding what is it that we're wanting to listen to, and we're not going to be quiet about it. We are going to share our feelings ferociously. And as we put together our preferences, I like to give every audience a little bit of homework. The homework I'd like to give you is to intentionally, over time, put together your own personal soundtrack. We mentioned that you've been consuming music for so long. You've probably not been documenting it outside of, yes, you've got your playlist and your entire list, But how about what were you listening to in that first decade of your life? What were you listening to in that second decade? Have you journaled it? Perhaps adding some photos of you and what your hair looked like at the time. And then you can put that all together, maybe the people that were a part of it. This is not about your favorites. This is just about what was. And what was your preference during that time? It's a way for you to renew your connection. And then you can go up to your junior high and high school years, your young adult life. I can remember then finding moments where there was no music. And I gave myself the permission to ask myself, why not? And it was often during those moments where something was really heavy going on in my life. For some of us, we might be drawn to more music. In my case, the silence is what was so loud. So I want to give you permission to go through and journal your personal soundtrack. I also want us to remember that when it comes to preferences, and especially when we're working with groups, yeah, we can find some music that works with everyone, which is so awesome when we're working with groups. But sometimes it's a little bit like this meme where not everyone's going to agree. And it's an opportunity for us to remain curious and to learn about one another. This is particularly interesting when we're in diverse cultural backgrounds and take a moment where we can actually learn about the music of somebody else, and they can share the stories that come along with that. Well, when you registered for this program, you also had an opportunity to put some of your suggestions down, and I'd like to share with you that on the National Music Center's Spotify account, those playlists have been added. So you can take a picture of this QR code. It will also be sent to you at the end of today's session, where you can connect and find out what are people listening to right here in healthcare. What's our music? The second tip that I have for you is to create the right kit. Now, I was mentioning earlier that some of us might have that dual cassette tape, where you used to have to put a pencil into the cassette and rewind it a little bit because you got too much of the announcer's voice on there. Remember those moments? Okay, we don't quite have to do that anymore. But we need a kit. We need something that worked. I personally have gone almost exclusively at home to vinyl. I've gone back. It has been a very, very expensive decision to go back to vinyl. And it has changed me. And I started this in about, 2018, 2019. And one of the things that happens is that I noticed that it can double as physical activity because every 15 to 20 minutes you got to get up and you actually have to turn it over in order to keep the music going. And I have also noticed that there's a different quality. I'm listening differently. But that's not what everybody wants. Sometimes we're looking for accessibility. Sometimes we're looking for sharing purposes. And you coming over to my house is not something I'm going to invite you to. So that's why streaming works so great. But not everyone can do that either. So I get to this point of today's presentation and I say, yes, make sure you have the best quality headphones. Make sure you put it on your Christmas list if you don't have it. Make sure you have access to your music. But also, please, think about all the people in your life that you love and care about. And just quickly go through your mind and say, do they have access? Are they able to access it? Or are there people within my community that I want to support so they have access to their music to use it when they need it? And it's not always the easiest thing, and I'm hoping to bridge generations together to help each other. Some of our older generations don't like asking for help very often. I don't know if you've noticed that. So one way to approach them is just, have you been able to listen to music lately? Oh, yeah, well, and when that's happening, or I wasn't able to, or I couldn't find this, or something, that's when we can maybe dedicate a couple of hours and help people get all set up. Is that something we can do together? Let's share. Next, number 3, harness the power of music throughout your day. I've got a little exercise that I'm going to run through with you today, and then we are going to send to you afterwards as an attachment of something that you can do whenever you want to and you can share within your communities. And we're going to look at music for mood today, so we can harness the power of music for a very specific time of day. And the first thing that I would like you to do for this is I would like you to put together a graph. And actually, there's going to be the graph in your handout, so you'll be able to do it there. So right now, you're going to imagine it. But if you're online right now, you can draw out a really quick graph. And at the top of the y-axis is your best self. In the middle is sort of my average self. And at the bottom is my least best self. And then I want you to define that a little bit. Because it's very easy for us to go, oh yeah, my best self, I know what that is. But I'm going to ask you to go a step further, because what we're learning right now is when we more intentionally engage, that's when we have the opportunity to change our brain. So it always means going, what more could I do? So as you address your best self, is that optimist? Is that a curious person? Is that someone who's highly productive and joyful? What words would you put around your best self? And then when you go to your least best self, who is that? Is that endless streaming of television? Is that lying down with a blanket, barely being able to look out? Like, what is it? You don't want to see people? Actually, you've decided you don't even like people that much. Right? We can all get there. We can all get there. So you're going to define exactly who you are throughout those things. And then you're just going to pick a typical day. And this is something I do with my new clients quite regularly. It's a very efficient way to get to know people, because then you're going to hear about a typical day. You're going to hear where they land when they wake up in the morning, and if they're a morning person, oh, like me, right up there. And then if where they're going to come down later in the afternoon, like me. And then I've got a little bump at the end, but not everyone's like that. I know a lot of grumpy people in the morning. Do you know grumpy people? And they're terrific too, also humans. They just feel like a bit of a different human when you're a morning person versus not a morning person, right? And so they're gonna have a completely different graph. And then what we do is we encourage people to get a sense of what this rhythm of their day is like on a typical day. And a typical day for right now. Because let's face it, the typical day you're having right now is very different than the typical day you had probably even 5 months ago. And I also notice big shifts when, the sun is setting at different times. It's always changing, so something we can look at on a more regular basis. And then what we're going to do is we're going to circle the spot. We're going to circle the spot that if it was just 5 or 10% different, a little higher or a little lower, maybe we're too ramped up at night and it needs to come down. Maybe we want to boost in the morning. Wherever it is, if it was 5 or 10% different, our whole day would feel a bit shifted, right? It's sort of like when I start taking greens in the morning, I all of a sudden remember, oh yeah, I can do greens before I actually have breakfast. And I feel different, right? So now we're looking at something else. Because what we're going to do is go, what do you need in that moment? Very similar to me defining the 3 words of the music you're drawn to. What's the one word? What's the one feeling at this time that if you had a bit more of it, you'd feel better? Now, you might think that what I want's energy. No, I've already had energy. I actually like coming down. What I don't like is the question, what's for supper? That's what I don't like, right? A demand. I don't want a demand when I'm down, right? I want to be able to be nurtured. Perhaps find a bit of love. What word for you goes to that spot? Do you have a word in mind? One word if something you need. One word. That is the name of your mini playlist. That is the one where you're going to find 5 songs that every time you hear them make you feel that way. That's your mini playlist, and you can use it for that time of day. I'm sending that playlist home with you, okay? All right, just a little self-care for the caregivers. Number 4, sad music is not bad music. I know we get asked that a lot. All I'm listening to is sad music. Is sad music bad? The question then is, does sad music make you feel sadder? And normally it's no. If it is, then we recommend to a mental health professional. But most of the time, it makes you feel better. And the reason is because sad music bypasses the verbal. You don't have to talk to anybody about it. Bypasses the verbal, connects with you, and validates where you're at. And when we are on the quest for healing, what we need first is validation. We need to not think that it's just not making sense in our world right now. All your sadness is making complete sense. You are allowed to be sad. You are allowed to have a downtime. We work with people that are going through some of the greatest challenges of their life that blindsided them. We are facing the person who they are in that. Sad music is never bad. Sad music will bypass the verbal and allow them just to be with it. And then we will move from there. Remember that music doesn't get rid of every stress, but it can create space around our spirit for a few hours or even for a few minutes. And number 5, explore new music. I encourage this for anybody who values a growth mindset. If you are wanting to continue to elevate yourself, elevate your mood, elevate yourself in your profession, elevate yourself with your relationships, that exploring new music is one of the ways that we can get there to keep expanding our mind. New music will affect new neural pathways. We don't always have to go to the past. We can move into the future. It's approximately 15 to 30% new music maximum we're going to add post the age of 30. And very little of that are we going to retain as much as we've retained our junior high, high school, and young adult years. That's the stuff that is totally there, hard-coded. But exploring new music has a different goal in mind. It goes back to that opportunity to get to know other people, to get to know other cultures, to explore different areas of the world, to see what's out there, expand ourselves. Maybe there's different tempos or tones. Maybe there's different instruments, but we're going to take the opportunity to do it. One of the other ways I love to explore music is similar to when I was telling you I was looking at the history of Bill Withers, but is also looking at music documentaries. There's so many great ones right now, and you can learn so much. You can learn so much about what was happening at the time. You can revisit it. You can see how things got to where we are today by exploring the music of the past. You can see also some of the things that haven't changed, like music being completely connected to the human spirit. A song is never just a song. And a playlist is never just a playlist. A song is someone's meaningful moment, and a playlist is their journey. And if none of these top tips work for you and take you into a better mode to look after yourself and use music, I always remind people to keep calm. There's always therapy. We're here for you. So please reach out if you ever have any questions. And when I was talking earlier about being able to serve ICU during COVID, and when we were actually able to also be there in our full hazmat suits, there was a reduction in anxiety of 65%. So if we're feeling a little bit anxious here, maybe not right now because we're kind of relaxed now, but when we leave and go back into the world outside of our bubble, and we're feeling a little bit of anxiety, or we're feeling a little sad, or a little bit of uncertainty, perhaps there's a way for music to help. Perhaps intentionally we can go for it instead of just letting it happen to us. There's a tech computer phone company out there that encourages us all to think different. Such a brilliant brand. Think different. Here at the National Music Center, we're trying to encourage everybody to feel different and to partner with your music in a deeper way. To come here and to visit and be a part of this community, and everything you learn and experience here to take back out into your lives with your families, those you care about, and maybe most importantly, for yourself. We want to invite you and encourage you to go to the coffee shop afterwards. I'm very honored that my books are available there should you be interested to take something home with you today. But there's also some beautiful art and some incredible albums that you can pick up there as well if you want to also spend a lot of money on vinyl. And if you feel like you'd like to come back, I know today was about healthcare, but I think we can all agree that anyone can benefit from any of these presentations. And so what we're going to be looking at for the next one on November 10th is music for optimum wellness, and we're particularly trying to take that to our fitness instructors and our wellness practitioners and inviting them to come. But of course, when we're looking at optimum wellness, it's for all of us. And then when on November 17th, we're looking at tuning into music for the artist, for the musician themselves, and I'm the most nervous for that one. Because, oh my goodness, everyone's going to be just everything that I wish I was. And you know, us musicians always are, oh, everyone else is so good. They think that often. And then on November 24th, tune into music at work. And we're inviting our corporate communities here to learn about how music can boost productivity and enhance the corporate culture. So that's what we're looking at. Please let people know about it. We want everyone to come here if possible, but of course we're going to be live streaming as well. And none of this would be possible without Bell. I want to thank Bell so much for supporting this particular program. And I want to thank the National Music Center for hosting it in the most glorious space at Studio Bell. Thank you so much. We're going to open it up for questions and answers. We are turning on